2018, a 2018 Mercedes-Benz AMG GLC 43 4MATIC Coupe to be used for the director of sales involved in the Hyatt Hotel. What makes this even more atrocious is the Barbados Tourism Investment Inc. has indicated to me that they are in possession of a check for the paltry sum of $5 million for the purchase of the Old Harbour Police Station, which one would have thought, given the discussion on the Hyatt for the last few years, that they would already have had adequate arrangements made for the land on which the hotel was to have been built, without a sum having been paid or to be paid on the eve of an election, and the sum that it is. I am not, and I have no, believe you me, no bias, nor does my government, against any person. And if investments are good for this country, given the state of the economy, we will do it. But I've asked for all of these things to be reviewed urgently because, as we said in our manifesto, there must be a college of negotiators to ensure that there is the appropriate value for the people of Barbados who have worked too hard, who are suffering too much, for the assets and benefits of the people of Barbados to be given away willy-nilly to people in circumstances where it cannot be justified, and in circumstances where we have no public transparency and accountability on these matters. That is Global Ports, that is Hyatt, that is the concessions for Burr 6. The Attorney General will speak to you about the signing of contracts at Parliament that were supposedly in the name of the Management Commission that we've never seen. But there was this attempt, and it is coming across in every ministry, to be able to tie any new government's hands with the appointment of personnel or the renewal or appointment or development of contracts and leases. In every instance, the CEO of the National Cultural Foundation, his contract was renewed the week before the election. With respect to other officers in government, literally ministry by ministry by ministry, a whole range. National Sports Council, I can go on, and at the appropriate time, a full account will be made to the country and to the Parliament of these egregious contracts that have been signed without reference to whether performance has been obtained by the people or not. And I must say to you, and the Attorney General I'm sure will agree, that you cannot literally renew contracts without appropriate assessment as to whether the persons have performed in accordance with the terms and conditions of the contract. I spoke in the campaign about the one for a Democratic Labour Party candidate who in November, who has a 5-year contract from November 2017 at Needham's Point. In circumstances when the contract was given to him, he was already a candidate, and there had to be the contemplation that had he won, a 5-year contract was way too long, and had he lost, that in circumstances he was operating in a situation where it was clearly intended to tie a government's hand either for the future or for damages to be paid at an extraordinary rate that goes beyond anything that would otherwise be supported. This is not fair to the people of Barbados. This is not even fair. And this is the financial equivalent of the South Coast Sewage Project. And you would understand why I have to say it that way. This is the financial equivalent of what has happened on the South Coast to the people of Barbados. I'd like to ask the Attorney General to speak to the other two, but before doing so, over 100 taxis, permits for ZMs, ZRs, buses. Well, 100 is what I have here for now, but once again, for the purposes since the 27th of March, and of course Parliament dissolved even before that on the 5th of March. But for the purposes of this meeting, this is just to give you a flavor of what we have found. And it is worse than this, literally ministry by ministry by ministry by ministry. I give the country an undertaking that we will report fully. But AG, please.
Thank you, Prime Minister. It is not at all the position of the Barbados Labour Party that government stops its operations at an election time or as people are transitioning. But it has always been the tradition of especially Cabinet that no major undertakings will be pursued by the government on the eve of an election. And the reason for this is obvious. It is imprudent to try to bind the hands of a new cabinet, should new cabinet be taking over. It is taking up an awful lot of ministerial time and staff time to be able to try and ferret out. Instead of going forward and addressing our serious issues, we have to now spend time looking to see what kinds of potentially harmful things have been done by this administration. For example, there's a lease which was granted by the National Conservation Commission in March. I will not indicate where this lease is for, but it is a lease which, when it was first issued in 2013, was only issued for 5 years. But in March of this year, it has now been issued up until the year 2029. It does not have a termination clause as the previous lease had. So the previous lease, you could terminate that rental with 1 month's notice. This clause is so generously prepared in favor of the tenant that it binds the hands of the National Conservation Commission in a way that I don't think any reasonable board or any reasonable minister would approve. You simply cannot grant a lease until the year 2029 without even an opportunity to terminate it in its normal course. Ministry after ministry, we are seeing the renewal of contracts for CEOs in circumstances where our government would want the opportunity to review the performance of those individuals. So, for example, the Transport Board, the general manager has had her contract renewed for a further 3 years. Now, good judgment would suggest that from the 1st of April 2018, good judgment would suggest that in circumstances where we have had major problems with the Transport Board, that an outgoing administration would want to give us the flexibility. And the same thing is showing up in just about every ministry. Perhaps the most egregious example of it is a situation where in one statutory board, the CEO's contract is not due to come to an end until September of 2019, but yet 2 months ago, that board sought to issue that individual with a long-term contract well over a year before the existing contract would come to an end. It is clear, it is absolutely clear that the intention there is to try to bind the hands of an incoming administration for a period well beyond what is reasonable. And this, as I said, it wastes an awful lot of ministerial time. We have to spend a lot of effort trying to go through these things, but it demonstrates a kind of bad faith in an administration that was in its last days to be trying to commit our statutory corporations in difficult times to this kind of expenditure. And this, in our view, is just the tip of the iceberg. And we now have to expend a significant amount of energy trying to undo, to the extent that it is possible, these things, so as to give ourselves the flexibility to go forward.
Thank you. The fiscal, Clyde, I don't know if you want the ambassador to add on the fiscal situation. Anything?
Well, truth be told, we have found a circumstance that is much worse than we anticipated. Even though the last administration, for well over a decade, attempted about 5 or 6 fiscal strategies that really yielded no benefit to the Barbados government. We have found ourselves now in a position where we have to think in terms of even greater adjustment going forward. There's no doubt that we have a foreign reserve problem. We have had a debt problem now for the last 10 years or more, and this is growing. The central bank found itself in a position having to print money continuously, and these are some of the issues that we have to resolve very quickly, so as to reposition the Barbados economy to offer some kind of hope to Barbadians. We are also looking at the fact that those people who are most vulnerable in this society will have to endure even greater hardship were it not for the fact that we have already identified a way to provide relief for those individuals, and we're going to do that instantaneously. But the challenge is on, and we look forward to it. The cabinet seems very well prepared for its task, and the future of Barbados is in very safe hands. Thank you.
So, colleagues, members of the media, what lies ahead of us? We go back to discuss a number of things. How can we address our fiscal situation without seeing the buildup of arrears that is at a horrendous level, as I just indicated to you? How can we address our fiscal situation, therefore, by ensuring timely payments from the government of Barbados where it needs to do so? How can we put our debt on a sustainable path? Because right now it is not, and it is now choking us and preventing growth in this economy. How can we literally ensure that we maintain our fixed exchange rate at all costs by having an adequate store of foreign reserves? These issues are critical, while at the same time we address the issue of how best do we restore confidence to the people, to the economy of Barbados, through private sector inflows, which for the most part in the last decade has dropped significantly, which has contributed to part of our problem with our foreign, and similarly, which has the absence of these private sector inflows has meant that our growth, to the extent that there has been any growth at all, has been highly anemic. What are our downside risks as we move forward? International increases in oil prices, climate change, hurricanes. I pray, and I want the rest of Barbados to pray with us, that we don't get hit by anything this summer, because the country is not in a position to take that additional lash. We go back upstairs to address a program with an understanding that what we will do in terms of specifics. We will go to the social partnership tomorrow. We will speak again to the country after we speak to the social partnership tomorrow. But this is something where each and every one of us, all of us, in this together. Peter Ram has a lovely song, All Are We, but it is truly all of us in this together. Regrettably, we are still uncovering, as I said, those things which will add to the contingent liability or the actual liability of government and the Attorney General. It's one of the reasons why the Attorney General has responsibility, literally, and has been in all of the economic meetings with me. You cannot have this level of arrears and not expect that we're going to have to set up a dedicated unit for managing it, both from a legal and a financial perspective. And this is literally where we are. We are confident, however, as Clyde said, that once we remain committed to doing the things that we said we would do in the campaign with respect to our manifesto, that we will be able to protect the most vulnerable in this society at the very time when they will need it the most, before we start any other actions that we have to take. And similarly, that we need to be able to propel growth at all costs, private sector-led growth. Governments don't grow, households and businesses grow, and we have to create the opportunities for their growth, either by ensuring that projects can be executed appropriately, transparently, fairly, but without the kind of egregious and inappropriate behavior that we have seen presenting itself. Similarly, we have to ensure that to the extent that we need to restructure how government functions, that is done as a matter of urgency. But we felt that it was appropriate to give you these things that we need to stay in chunks that are manageable. Tomorrow when we come, we're going to look to the future, but we needed to be able to show you where we are, because Barbadians need to understand every step of the way. And today is about what we have found with respect to our fiscal situation, our foreign exchange situation, our exposure to contracts. We know that there's a lot more, but this is the flavor that we want to share with you today. Tomorrow, when we speak to you again, we then talk to you after we've consulted with all of the different entities yet again. We've had meetings, as you know, throughout the week already. We will be addressing the future, because as I like to say, I do not have eyes in the back of my head. Our eyes are to go forward now, and this is an entire country and 275,000 people that we are carrying with us, and I have every confidence that we shall make it. But the only way we are going to make it is together, and therefore that is why I'm speaking to you a little more than I would probably be speaking to you in the future. But it is important that you understand where we are. Okay, Ryan or Abby, you're good. Any questions?
Can you elaborate? Sorry, Roberta Doll will start on that one. Can you elaborate on the strategy to help the vulnerable?
We said it in the campaign. The pensions, we said it in the campaign. We said the different things that we're going to put in place. We were very clear, fixing the buses, getting buses on the road and fixing existing buses where possible, buying new buses, garbage trucks, dealing with the accident and emergency, and opening the polyclinics, the 2 key polyclinics, although there's representation that we do it for 3. Ensuring that the University of the West Indies students can go back to university from the next semester. If we don't do that, jobs when they're created are going to be created at a level that doesn't make any sense and will not earn for the country. So we have a program that will allow for social protection, but also will propel growth in this economy, and that has to be maintained. When asked how we were going to do it, remember, people didn't believe us. We said we have a way. I told you, give me the vote on Watchmen, and I ask you to watch me now in the next 2 weeks.
Shane Jones, CBC.
Yes.
Prime Minister Mottley, the Attorney General, had he described the decisions made after capital was dissolved as imprudent. What process will now happen in terms of reviews and a process of trying to untie the hands of government right now?
He and the lawyers of statutory corporations have a hell of a lot of work to do. And believe you me, it's not just with respect to the individual contracts, but the Attorney General and I have already discussed the course of conduct, the modus operandi, because sometimes the course of conduct of an entity or a person can lead one to a view that this is the modus operandi, and then you will determine whether there has been appropriate activity in public office or not. I say no more than that at this stage. Any other questions? If none, then I'll see you tomorrow again, I suspect. But we'll do this in chunks. I can't see you yesterday. Thank you.
With the discrepancies that you have found, how far back does that set your government in your plans for the
Well, it's going to make some adjustments. I mean, there's no 2 ways about it. And what we're doing now is crunching the numbers to see what implications there will be. Tomorrow when I speak again to you, I'll indicate what is the course of conduct over the next 2 weeks, because what we're trying to do is to carry the country along with us first in understanding where we are. Tomorrow is what we're doing, and in the next week, 10 days, it will be to do it. So we just feel that it is important that we carry the country with us on this journey. That's the promise we made, and people need to understand when we act and what we're doing, why we're doing it in their name. As I said yesterday, regrettably, and Mr. Alde is here, the extent of the difficulties at the South Coast Sewage Project, South Coast Sewage System, is worse than we thought. It's going to cause us to spend a little more money than we thought. We go now to discuss that, and we've been advised that there's some challenges with the Bridgetown.
Bridgetown sewage treatment plant.
You may want to just speak to the public so that they're not taken by surprise, because this is what we are inheriting. You understand? And we don't intend for the situation to continue. In fact, what I saw yesterday is nothing short of criminal, because there is no way Barbados should have been allowed to come to that without action. Pipes that should be here to do an outfall that they wanted to do, that was recommended 6 months ago, haven't been done. And I'm not casting blame on anybody other than the absence of the provision of resources. You cannot expect entities to function, especially in crisis situations, if you don't provide the resources for it. And that's what's happened with the Barbados Water Authority with the sewage projects. Mr. Halliday? The Bridgetown, respectfully, please.
Thank you, Prime Minister. As you're aware, we would have reactivated one of the lift stations for Bay Street as part of our mitigation measures. to divert some of the effluent, or rather some of the influent, to our Bridgetown sewage treatment plant. The danger of that is that it would have put more pressure on our Bridgetown sewage system or Bridgetown treatment plant. And we've seen the reality of that come into bear in the sense that our systems of physical or systems of equipment rather has been taxed. The way the plant functions, and it's a secondary treatment plant, is that there are really two main tanks. There are really four tanks within that tank, if you can call it that. You have the contact tank, you have the contact tank, the fuse, I think. I'm sorry, I'm mixing up my names for the moment. But the point is that what we've discovered is that the equipment there is beginning to fail, and it is beginning to fail significantly. One of our tanks, in essence, is not working at the moment. The other one, which contains the digester and other equipment, is beginning to fail. The funding requirement is actually pretty significant. And while we have not yet placed it before the cabinet or ministers, we're looking at least $12 million to try to rehabilitate the Bridgetown sewage plant in its most basic sense. This does not yet allow us to address some of the other issues where we had a fire, the staff room that needs rehabilitating, and some of the other ancillary works that needs to be done. This does not allow us to carry the system fully back into what we'll call a secondary state. This is just to make sure that the system doesn't collapse around us. So some of the things that we need to do, we need to look at some of the trunk lines, we need to look at some of those contact plants, processes, we need to look at some of the ancillary equipment that goes with it, and that's just to enable us to make sure we maintain the Bridgetown sewage plant as best as we can. So we are quite concerned with the Bridgetown sewage treatment plant. It's been hobbling along for some time. We know that. We have quietly expressed it at times. We have shouted it at other times. But we're at the point where if we do not take immediate action, if we do not apply immediate resources, we will have a significant problem in 2 to 4 weeks' time.
2 to 4 weeks. That's about please. So colleagues, you understand that what we find is a dire situation, and as I said, it is. I am lost for words at how one government could have presided over the utter destruction of Barbados' infrastructure and systems as this last government did for the most part of the last 5-6 years. And I say 5-6 years because that's when it really intensified, even though there were some problems from before. If you do not spend money to maintain a house, things start to break down in that house. It's as basic as that. If you don't put oil in a car engine, the engine seizes up. When you do not maintain the infrastructure that we had, be it at the South Coast and Bridgetown sewage system, be it the buses, be it the garbage trucks, be it the accident and emergency and the hospital and equipment, be it in our schools, what we have now is the cumulative impact of a government that went missing in action, that was lost, and that was more concerned with the issuance of tax concessions and contracts than it was in maintaining systems for ordinary Barbadians to be able to function. When you can waive $333,000 for a Mercedes coupe for a Hyatt that has not even broke ground yet, for a director of sales for nothing to sell, but yet you can't find the money to be able to sort out the South Coast or the Bridgetown sewage on the most basic things after a fire, then you begin to understand that this is a case of misplaced priorities, mixed up attitudes, misplaced priorities. You can put every other adjective that I probably should not use from this chair, but believe you me, this is the unkindest cut of all to the people of Barbados, and that they did it with impunity. It's unfortunate. Yes.
Question, Barry Allen from the Nation. In your campaign leading up to the election, you have mentioned the probable pulling back of the national social responsibility yet.
Mm-hmm.
In light of what you've discovered now, how plausible, how viable is a pulling back of that levy in a very short time frame?
We're still trying to keep our promises, but I'm not making any commitments. I'm not saying anything other than I will address you tomorrow and then 2 weeks again from now, because this is a process and I'm not fooling anybody. This is not an abracadabra moment. This is a moment of taking charge of a country's circumstances and making sure that our duty allows us to do by our people what is fair, what is right. We accept that we cannot ask our people to make the adjustment with us. That has to be made in order to correct our foreign exchange problem and our debt problem and our fiscal problem generally, without ensuring that people are ready. If you come in with me on a long walk, a long march, a marathon, a sponsored walk, you got to eat before you leave home in the morning.
And a follow-up question, in terms of our date with destiny, is there any probability at all that we would not be in a position to make our payment?
As I said, we are not addressing anything today other than dealing with where we are. Tomorrow we speak on what we will do, and the next time I speak to you thereafter, it will be what we are doing literally in terms of the actual execution of it, which involves Parliament at that stage. So let us let tomorrow come, and let us let next week come as a week after come. And the one thing you can be assured of is that you will not have to hide or ask anybody what you say or what they're really doing. You will be told up front and center. Okay? Thank you. Thank you very much.